Welcome back, everybody, to this week's episode of the Taking a Breath podcast. I'm excited to share Brandon Burke with you guys this week at Brandon the Author on Instagram and brandontheauthor.com. He is not only an author of a new book coming out November 1st, Rediscovering Dad and Discovering Myself, but also an Alzheimer's awareness advocate and just an incredible dude. So I'm excited to have him share his story today. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. And I think there's so much value. I mean, you mentioned it right there of the maturity and growth of the relationship. And I think that's so important for whether it's the father-son, whether it's the friends, whether it's the people around you. Really, that's something that we all have to realize is like people mature over time, people change over time, and we have to allow, and some people really put up those barriers. And so it sounds like that was something that you had a lot of grace for and were really willing to say, okay, like let's give this, another go or whatever that looked like. But then now you're seeing the benefits of it down the road as well.
Absolutely. And it's unfortunate on some level because of the situation that he's in, of course,
Right.
but at the same time, there's joy in being able to be there for him and to be able to provide for him in a way that I think that most people don't get to do. I get to see some different things and different sides of him. But, I still notice that there's that same guy is still there. There are times and there are times when he does something and we're like, oh, that's Gary. That's my dad, But there are times when it's not that way. And that's what's kind of hard about, dealing with the disease.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, you mentioned it a little bit, kind of the community and relationships that you've formed as you guys have been walking through this. I'm curious, how has not only when you initially found out, being a part of the community and them supporting you, but also giving back, how has that changed your perspective on, Alzheimer's and really being a part of the organization as a whole that you mentioned?
It really gave me a sense of community. It's interesting. We just had a call right before this one where one of the ladies was talking about her situation, and she really kind of leaned on us and told us, I really love you all, and you all really helped me through what I'm going through. And so I think that is what being a part of the walk has really done for me, is giving me a sense of community. And I've done therapy before and I'm not opposed to that, and I would absolutely do it again if I needed to, but I've felt like this being a part of the Alzheimer's walk committee in particular has really been like a kind of a group session, a group therapy, if you will, because we can share stories. We're all impacted by in some way, shape, or form. So that has been tremendous for me.
And I was curious because I know, I mean, just in general, so the book for people who are listening is going to be coming out November 1st. So we're recording this about a month before the book comes out. And I'm curious, at what point did you kind of go from, okay, learning about this and being a part of the community to then, okay, I really want to raise awareness by putting out my story? Like, what was that shift like for you?
It had been something that I've been toying with for a while. It was last, I think, July or so. I really was kind of in bed and couldn't sleep one night. And I was thinking about it. And I was like, it's on my heart right now. Let me go ahead and do it. Let me go ahead and start this process. And so it took me a few months to get, it together. And then I started looking for a publisher. And that was a whole process in and of itself. And I finally found one earlier this year. So I chose I chose November as the release because I wanted it to be ready for Alzheimer's Awareness Month.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think that's so awesome, and we'll definitely be sharing the links as that comes out, because I personally want to read through it and definitely will share it with others as well. I'm curious, so there was the two parts of the title. The one is, the rediscovering dad side of it, and then also discovering myself. And I was curious because, when I'm reading this, knowing what kind of the overall concept of it is, I definitely understood kind of the rediscovering dad side of it, and was curious for the discovering myself side of it. What are some things that were some big takeaways from this? And what did that kind of look like for you?
So, I think that we're all kind of searching for what our purpose in life is, right? And what it is that we're supposed to be here to do. And the discovering myself was about how this has led me to the moment where I decided, hey, I'm going to be an author and I'm going to write my story. I'm going to share my story with the world, and I'm going to be an advocate, right? So I do this advocacy, this, philanthropic stuff that I do for the Alzheimer's Association. But, I am, before it was kind of like, you're just kind of working and doing what you went to school for. But now it turned into, this is something I actually have a passion about, because it's something that deeply impacts me, and something that I feel deeply impacts so many others. And it's not just, even just the people who are caregivers, but the family members of the caregivers, the family members of the person who has the disease, the friends of the person who has the disease. All of these people are impacted. And if you look around, I mean, just about everybody knows someone who's been impacted by Alzheimer's disease. So I really thought that this disease and what I've been through with my father has really led me to be the man who I am today.
Yeah, and so I'm curious. As a result of this, what are some big takeaways for you? Are you the type of person who is like looking back and thinking about things you might have done differently, or do you have really like a future focus on like, okay, what are the steps moving forward? I'm just curious what your perspective on that is.
My biggest lesson out of all of this is to live in the moment. And
Wow.
I say that because, living in the past, there's things you can't change about it. Of course, there are things you would want to do different and kind of change, your perspective or something like that. But and we can't predict the future. All we know is right now. And what this disease has taught me too is about that, because someone who has Alzheimer's disease, they don't know what happened necessarily 5 minutes ago. And so, when you're experiencing them as they're re-experiencing things. And so they, if they've done something that, they normally wouldn't do, that you may have taken offense to, you realize, hey, they didn't really mean, that's not them actually doing this. This is the disease. And so they're kind of just in the moment right now, and so I think that that's important, because that way we're not stuck on, the past or worrying about the future. Of course, those are things that you think about, but living in the moment has probably been one of my greatest lesson out of it all.
That's incredible. And for you, one of the biggest themes and keys that I've been trying to pull from in this podcast is like those mentors, those key kind of figures that are playing roles in your life. What are your big lessons learned from them? So I'm curious if there's some things that over the years that your dad, as kind of one of these quote unquote like key players in your life, had really instilled in you that you're taking forward every day now.
My biggest lesson from my father is to be unapologetically yourself. I think
Wow.
that, and he loved me and my, brothers and sisters for being exactly who we were. He never, even though when I was younger, I wasn't sure about it, but as I got older, it was definitely something that I knew 100% fact, that he didn't care. As long as we were doing good things and, doing the right thing, everything's fine. And he, whether, who you love, or, who you're, what your affiliations are, anything like that, he didn't really have any problem with that, as long as you were doing something that was positive and you were being yourself. I think that that's what's most important. A lot of us are not, or some of us are not given that unconditional love sometimes, and it's unfortunate. But I'm blessed to say that I was able to get that from my dad, and I mean from my mom too, of course. But since this is about my father, um, he definitely showed me that and provided that for me.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of Taking a Breath. Hope you'll check us out on Instagram at Taking a Breath Podcast. And if you're interested in listening to the full audio version of this episode, check us out in the link in the description. Have a great week.